Hi again, my name is Lester Stewart at Warren Middle School. Today I want to go over the rules of decimals with you. So let's get started. Let's start off with addition. Here's the deal. If you've ever added money, or if you've ever subtracted money, you've dealt with decimals. Here, let's put it into effect. Let's say you have $1.75, and you go to a Coke machine. Cokes cost what, about 75? Well, let's say you want to subtract your 75 cents. Well, guess what? You just subtracted with decimals. You have $1 left. Let's do some examples with addition. Let's take an effect. You have money. Let's say you have $5 in your wallet. That's how you would express $5. You have 5 in the whole number spot, a 0 in the tenths, and a 0 in the hundreds. And let's say you find $1.20 in your change in your car. So how would you write that? You'd write 1 in the whole numbers, a 2 in the tenths, a 0 in the hundreds. So when you add that together, you get $6.20. Well, here's the deal when you add decimals. You always line up your decimal. Now notice, when you normally see $5, people just associate $5 as this. They don't put the change there. Remember, when you never see a decimal, there's always an imaginary decimal at the end, and that's how it relates here. So I put the decimal here, and then I put 2 zeros here. Because remember, in terms of money, there's the tenths place, and then there's the hundreds. The hundreds represent cents. Okay? That's your cent. So if you ever see a problem that says round to the nearest cent, you're wanting to round this spot, the hundreds. Okay? So this is our adding. Notice, lining up the decimals, and then we bring it straight down so as not to confuse anything. Well, subtraction works the same way. You had 37 and 27 hundredths. And let's say you want to subtract 13 hundredths. Okay? Or decimal 1/3. So here we go. 7 take away 3 is 4. 2 take away 1 is 1. 7, oh, there's nothing here. Well, if there's nothing there, it's kind of like an imaginary 0. You could put a 0 there as a placeholder. Does it change the value? No, it doesn't change the value. 7 take away 0 is still 7. 3 take away 0 is still 3. Bring down my decimal. So my answer would be 37 and 14 hundredths. So what happens if you get a problem like this? And this is where most people make a mistake. When they see problems first associated like this. 57 plus 1 and 675,000. You're wanting to add that up. Well, here's what the common mistake is. People would write it like this. Is this correct? No, it's not. We have to remember that this 57 has an imaginary decimal. So are my decimals lined up? No, they're not. So I have to scoot this 57 over. So what can I put here that won't change my value? Zeros. So this is called putting zeros in my placeholders. So now that I have zeros in my placeholder, it makes it easier. 5 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 0 is 7. 6 plus 0 is 6. 1 plus 7 is 8. And I can put 0 plus 5 is 5. So what would my answer be? It'd be 58 and 675,000. Okay? Well, now let's go to a multiplication example. When you multiply with decimals, it's the same as if you just regular multiplying, whether the decimal's there or not. We tell our kids to push the decimals as if there's an imaginary wall here, to shove everything against that wall. And here's for an example. Let's say you have 23 times 7. Okay? That's how you would line it up. You would right column align it. Well, let's say now you just want to throw in a decimal. Put a decimal here and a decimal there. 7 times 3, you're going to multiply just as regular. 7 times 3 is 21, carry my 2. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16. Now here's where multiplying decimals is a little bit different. You count your number of decimal places. Here's what I mean by count your number of decimal places. There's 1, 2 there, and then there's 1 here. So that's 3 total decimal places. How you get 3 is you figure out how many place values it is away from the right, okay? And then you go back in your answer, and then you redistribute it. So it would go 1, 2, 3. So my answer would be 1 and, it'd be 161 thousandths. Okay? That's redistributing my decimal. Now, some students have been taught that you can line up your decimals. Well, that's still going to get you the same answer. Let me show you. Remember, our answer was 161 thousandths. That was our answer. Okay? Now let me show you. You can get the correct answer still by lining up your decimals. I'm going to put the 7 here. Well, guess what goes here? I'm going to fill it in. That way it won't change the value. I'm going to put a 0 in there. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and multiply it out. But here's the deal. Take a look at your decimal places now. Instead of 3, how many will you have? Well, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this time I have 4 because I've lined up my decimal places. Are you always going to have 4 when you line up your decimal places? No. It just determines how many spaces away from the right side your decimal is. So here we go. 0 times everything up here is 0. Okay? And in my class, I tell my kids this: when you have a drop down and you're having to scoot over, I just go ahead and put an X here. That way it helps me not to confuse my zeros from moving over to a 0 in the problem. Okay? So 3 times 7 again is 21, carry my 2. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16. Well, now I carry my 4 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is 161 thousandths. This 0 here really isn't important to me. It doesn't change the value of this answer. Okay, it's just like a placeholder. So this is the same as that. Okay? That's how multiplying works. Let's do another example. Let's say we have 1 and 2400ths times, let's say 25. And we'll have 40. And we'll put our decimal there. 5 times all this stuff up here, 5 times 0, 0, 2 times 0, 0, 1 times 0, 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my drop down here. And this is why I picked this problem. Because I'm going to put an X here because here's the deal. What's 4 times 5? 20. Put a 0 there. Carry my 2. What's 2 times 4? 8 plus 2 is 10. Another 0 there. Carry my 1. 1 times 4 is 4 plus 1 is 5. I do this that way. I know 4 times all these numbers is just 500. This X tells me this is where I drop down and carry my places. Okay? So count your decimal places. You have 1, 2, 3. So 3 decimal places. Now redistribute. 1, 2, 3. So what's my answer? My answer is just 5. Let's do an example of division. And here's the deal. Most students, they can do good with addition and subtraction. Multiplication can get it. It takes maybe 1 or 2 days and they got it. Division is commonly the most hardest thing to get. Okay? So let's spend a little bit of time on this. Remember the example of the integers last time we went at it. Okay? Let's say we have 2 and 1/10 divided by 3/10. 2 1/10 divided by 3/10. Well, remember with problems like this, the first number is always going to go inside it. When you make your house, it's like letting the lady in. You let her in the door first, so she gets in the house first. So my 2 1/10 goes here. My 3/10 goes outside. Okay. Now, this is the key part of dividing with decimals. Is this a whole number? This number is called your divisor. This number is called your dividend. Dividend, when you say it, you hear the word in. Well, dividend is inside. Divisor is outside. So here's the deal. My goal is for this number to be a whole number. And I want to move my decimal. I want my decimal to be right next to the dividing bar. So here's the deal. How many places is my decimal away from it? Well, it's one place away. So here's the key. I'm going to move this decimal one place to get to next to the dividing bar. If I move my decimal here, I have to move it also the same amount of space as on the inside. I'm going to move it here. So now my decimal is no longer here. My decimal is now there. On my dividend, my decimal is no longer here. It's now here. So my problem now reads 21 divided by 3. Well, what's 21 divided by 3? My answer is 7. Let's do another. We'll use the numbers 375 divided by 2500s. So we have 375 divided by 2500s. Remember the rule. The first number always goes inside. It's like letting the lady into the house. 375 divided by 2500s. Well, notice, I have a decimal here, but there's no decimal here. What are we going to do? Remember, if you never see a decimal, there's always an imaginary decimal at the end. Okay? So I have 2500s dividing into 375. My goal is to make my divisor a whole number. Well, how many decimal places away from the end is it? It is 1, 2. So it takes me 2 places. Well, here's the deal. This is already a whole number. Why do I need to mess with it? You have to. Remember, if I'm going to move my decimal out here, I have to move it in here. I tell my kids that it's like in boxing when you trade legs. If I do 2 hits out here, 2 hits in here will wash out the hits. So 2 here, got to go. 2 here, so it goes 1, 2. Well, notice you got 2 empty spaces here. So what do you think we should put in? I'm going to put in zeros. Okay? Because I can't put anything here with value because I added it on. So now I have 25 dividing into 37,500. So now let's divide it out. 25 can't go into 3. 25 can go into 37 once for 25. Subtract it out. 3 take away 2 is 1. 7 take away 5 is 2. Bring down your 5. So now I have 25 going into 125. How many times can that go? Well, quarters. Think about it. Quarters into $1.25. 1 quarters, 25, 50, 75, 100, $1. So 5 would make it 125. So my answer would be 0. Well, is my answer just 15 because I stopped and I'm done? No. I still have my decimals here. So I have to put numbers here. Well, put in zeros. It's not changed. I'm not giving it a value. I'm adding in zeros because of my decimals here, and I have to fill up my placeholders. So what is 375 divided by 2500s? 1,500. I thank you for your time today, and I hope that this has been helpful in learning the decimal.